This is Lady Anne, owner of KPNL Radio and hostess of the Caravan Library of Lore, and I support Tessa. As an experiencer myself, I have filed my own reports with them, and the professionalism and heart they have shown my case goes above and beyond. If you have had an experience, I cannot recommend Tessa enough.
Hi, this is Ernie Hudson, Winston's and more from Ghostbusters. I want to let you know that Ryan Stacy, he's created the Experiencer Support Association, TESA. You can check them out at www.tesacan.org. Now, they investigate paranormal, UFO, and provide support to experiencers. But you can check them out at, like I said, www.tesacan.org and see for yourself if they're really Ghostbusters. I can tell you this, they are a non-profit organization. Good luck, have fun, and keep it positive.
Good evening. You are listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, a podcast by the Experiencer Support Association. Tessa is a UFO, paranormal, and paracryptid investigation association. We investigate everything belonging to the global phenomenon linked to highly strange and unexplained experiences. We also connect experiencers with other experiencers, creating a safe, positive environment to engage and discuss this phenomenon without judgment, criticism, or retribution. From the land of the white rolling sands on the southeasterly tip of Georgian Bay, to all of you listening around the world, as we simulcast live on KPNL Radio, we salute you. If you want to go back and listen to our previous episodes, go to youtube.com/the Experiencer Support Association. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button and ring that bell to be instantly notified when we are live, not only for these episodes, but every single element Tessa has to offer. On our website, tessacan.org, we have something for everyone. We have support for experiencers, data for independent researchers, and places to advertise for professional partners. Sorry about that. I have no idea why that didn't pop up right away. Good evening, everybody. You are watching Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. Welcome to the channel, and thank you for joining us this evening. To Super Chat, click the $ next to your name in the comment box. All donations go back to the mission. If you're catching this on replay, please consider becoming a member and unlock bonus content, including behind the scenes and extended footage on new project developments and investigations. Just click the big blue button that says join. Today is Thursday, September 16th, 2021, and I, Ryan Stacy, am not your host this evening. Tonight's host is Tim the Demon Guy Morrison. He's also a licensed private investigator, published writer, and an open source exorcist, and one hell of a demonologist. He is the General Operations Manager for Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services and the Experiencer Support Association. Tim, welcome.
Hey, Ryan.
How are you?
Good.
How are you?
This is a different thing to do on a Thursday night.
It's good.
Yeah. Normally, I'd be into Netflix and napping, but this is good.
Okay. Well, please don't nap during the show. This is your
I
debut.
will.
You know,
Yeah,
you want to do real good. And don't forget the icebreaker, because the icebreaker is all mine tonight. All those times.
Yeah.
All those times. Okay.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right. So our guest for season 3, episode 29 is Lynn Wallington. As a witch with ancestral ties to Salem, Massachusetts, Lynn Wallington lives life amidst the strange and unusual. Her first paranormal experience happened at a young age, where she saw her great-grandmother sitting at the edge of her bed one night, only to find out the next morning that she had passed away. Lynn has also lived with one foot in this world and one in the spirit world, and since that defining moment, she had a fascination with all things paranormal. Her interest in the paranormal and how it affects people led her to get a degree in psychology from the University of Massachusetts. After Lynn graduated, she worked for Harvard Medical School doing research and working with clients who had schizophrenia and other forms of psychosis. In her 30s, Lynn had her first experience with a UFO, and shortly after had an experience with a mantis being. Her interest in the field of ufology was sparked using her own experience and her background in psychology. Lynn worked with FREE, the Dr. Edgar Mitchell Foundation, for research into the extraterrestrial encounters, where she helped to develop and run the support program for experiencers. In doing so, Lynn had the privileges of talking with hundreds of experiencers, where she helped them come to terms with their encounters. I apologize for my cat in the background. She is running around and being silly. Lynn is also certified as a regression therapist, and has worked with experiencers to help recover memories and understand the role these experiences have played in her life. In addition to being on the Spaced Out Radio's roundtable as Spaced Out Radio's resident witch, Lynn is the co-host of the YouTube channel Paranormal Spirits. So Lynn, put on your tinfoil hat. We are about to go down a rabbit hole. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
Right on, good. So enjoy the show, everybody. Sit back, and I will be here soon to interrupt for the commercial break. Have fun.
Lynn, we have normally we start the show with an icebreaker that I provide Ryan.
Okay.
It's a question. I don't know what it is. So and that's the the demon guy throws stuff at Ryan, so he's done the same to me. Welcome, by the way, Lynn. It's wonderful to have you here. You had me on your show for my first show ever on the internet. So I appreciate you coming here. And here is our question, Lynn.
Oh no.
Okay, Lynn, I'm sorry. I had to read it first. On a scale of 1 to 100, how much better is Ryan's beard compared to Dave Scott's? I was the one.
On that.
Okay. I don't know. I thought he shaved today, but
that's hilarious. Yeah, that's true. So I guess I can answer that. He did look clean shaven. So I would say, since I work with Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio, Dave Scott might have this one in the bag. He
wins the beard thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ryan. That's we'll talk about that later. Lynn, it's as I said, it's wonderful to have you here. I do tell people that I know a witch in Salem. Okay. And from and that's my very limited knowledge of witches. Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, I'd like to jump right into your bio mentions your first paranormal experience. What direction did you go to become a witch?
Well, I actually
give me the goods.
Well, I've always been interested in spirituality and religions of all kinds. So I've just looked into all of them and studied them. And in my early 20s, I kind of stumbled upon, though, I'm not a huge fan. I don't necessarily believe in coincidences. It's not to say that they don't happen, but I came upon a book that was about a woman's experience of finding out about witchcraft and getting involved in the community and kind of her story. And I read it and was just fascinated by it. And because I hadn't really ever explored that world before. So for me, I mean, I'd grown up with the paranormal, but witchcraft was really something that was pretty foreign to me. So I just, knew the term, but that was pretty much it. Right. And so once I read that, it just really sparked my interest, and I just dove into the deep end.
Yeah. So the psychology degree, that's it interests me because you mentioned spirituality and of course paranormal, and I like taking the paranormal and the all the ultra spectrum and all that kind of stuff, and I have to attach some form of reality to it first before I can start looking into it. And to me, psychology is the reality, right? I don't know if that makes sense, but to me, the mental health is number one as far as I'm concerned. Doesn't matter what you're doing, and you need to determine all those factors before you go into any kind of investigation or exorcism, or spell casting or whatever, right? So how do you tie the two in? Do you like?
Well, I mean, I'm interested equally in both. I find the human mind and human behavior just fascinating. But I also find how we react to things such as the paranormal, or, in my world, the UFOs or aliens or any of that, like kind of, high strangeness, like how we as people react, because everybody has a different reaction to it. And so I find that absolutely fascinating. Now, I have had the two overlap. For example, when I worked with Free and kind of helped develop their support program, one of the roles that I played in that was to speak with people that were calling in looking for a mentor and kind of, I don't want to say vetting them because I'm certainly never vetting an experiencer, but obviously we want to make sure that there isn't maybe a mental health issue going on or something that would require more help than we could possibly give them. Because the people we had working with them were their peers, they were mentors. So in that sense, I've had to combine the two in some ways, but I just find them I find both worlds equally fascinating, and they definitely overlap because you never know. There is always a psychological component to it. Even with the very realness of it, there is a psychological component to seeing a spirit. Whether that is, did I actually see something? Am I going to rationalize how I saw something? Did I, see into a different dimension? Did I, like all of those different possibilities involve psychology in some way or another.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. That, so do you find it's schizophrenia and bipolar that I'm very familiar with those particular mental health issues. How would a witch? How would a witch heal a person with schizophrenia?
This witch would say go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist because that's my background. I would say with something like that, I am very much a believer in medicine. I'm not one of those witches that would completely say, I can heal you, because in reality, a witch can't heal schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is a degenerative brain disease. So there's nothing a witch is going to be able to do to heal that. Yeah. So
just jumping to you're talking about witchcraft. One of the other questions I do have is your thoughts on Wicca. Now, is there confusion between the two, witchcraft and Wicca?
Yes.
Then maybe that's a good question. Wicca, I mean, I've just done, in all honesty, I've Googled it. And it's a 20th century thing, but witchcraft itself is much older than that.
Yes.
So I hadn't realized that. So maybe you could.
I'm so glad that you asked. So glad you asked that, because even within the witchcraft and the Wiccan communities, which do overlap, even though there are some differences, they do overlap to a certain extent. There's confusion, even amongst, especially people that are newer in the field. And that's a question that we constantly, we as kind of the older witches have to constantly approach. So the difference is Wicca is a spirituality. It is in essence a religion. In fact, it is recognized as a religion nationally. Witchcraft doesn't have to have any aspect of spirituality to it. It is the practice of working with the natural world, the world around us, the energies around us. So as witches, we believe, and Wiccans believe this as well, that all of us are, we are all energy. We do know that. That is a scientific fact. Everything around us is energy. And so witchcraft, basically, we believe that we can use that energy and harness it with our intent to create whatever outcome it is that we would like to see happen. Now, does that always happen? Of course not. Like example, like you can't cure schizophrenia with witchcraft. Right. It's just not going to happen. But we can certainly put our intent out there. And, in some cases, it is going to make a difference. So witchcraft is simply the craft, the actual act of, let's say, spell casting, to use a term that people will be more familiar with. Spell casting is witchcraft. Wicca would be involving the god, the goddess, the you might be working with the Sabbats, which are like the witches' kind of holidays, the holy days. Right. The Esbats, which are the different phases of the moon. Now, even though I'm not Wiccan, when I do spell casting, a lot of times I will take the phases of the moon into account. So in that sense, there's that overlap in that we both work with the natural world. And so it is a gray area to a certain extent. But the difference is, you don't have to be Wiccan to be a witch, and you don't have to be a witch to be Wiccan. They can be separate, but they can also be combined. And that's where the confusion comes a lot of the time, is because there is so much overlap. Yeah. Well, but the biggest difference is the spirituality.
The spirituality, okay.
Yeah.
Chantel just jumped in with a comment and said, great distinction.
Oh, thanks, Chantel.
Yeah, Chantel, she's our rock star, by the way. She is our administrator at Tessa. And
awesome.
If Chantel decided to, take a day off, Tessa would have to fold, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what. It's just, she's fantastic. So, sorry, Lynn. So Wicca would you call it a religion?
It is a religion, yes.
Okay. So witchcraft goes back to doctors, or physicians. I'm going to say witch doctors for lack of a better term. Okay. But weren't originally the witches were actually doctors or government officials.
Yes, like the medicine women that you hear.
The medicine, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but the practices that we practice are ancient, really. Yeah. I mean, if you look back to the ancient Egyptians, a lot of the things that they did are the same types of the ways of looking at things that witchcraft does. So yes, everybody kind of thinks of the kind of the witch in the woods, who was like the medicine woman that everybody went to, and that is true, and that was viewed as witchcraft. But really, she was just working with herbs. She knew, how to use the natural world to heal.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and there was some fear around that, and so that's why that kind of became called witches.
Yeah, if it worked, that would that would create.
Yeah, so it seemed like magic to them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So science. So there's there's a distinct difference between science and magic, obviously.
Not really.
Well, okay.
See, people think that.
That's what I'm thinking. Okay. Yeah. But when you're using natural herbs like earth things from the earth, that's where our medicine all comes from. Anyway, it's maybe synthesized these days, but so it was interesting that when I Googled again, that it gave me witch doctors or that the medical type healing professions.
Yeah.
But we're talking years and years and years,
Yeah, because if you think about it, working with the herbs is like the natural world. That would be biology, right?
Right.
Working with energy, that's physics. Working with the elements, again, is another form of biology, I guess one could say. And it's also combined with physics because we're working with the energy from fire or we're working with the energy from water. So there is a lot of overlap between science and magic. We always say magic is misunderstood science.
Misunderstood. Yeah, thank you. That's I was heading that direction, Lynn. I knew you'd get there. So as far as the distinction between UFOs and paranormal activities, we've got our ultra spectrum. I don't know if you've reviewed it, but it's based on Hynek and of course John Keel's super spectrum. How do you feel about that? Connecting it, everything is connected. Like I'm kind of thinking you'll agree because everything on the earth is connected. But then now we're talking about outer type things.
Oh, absolutely.
So where do you go with that? Like, what's your experience with the UFO as opposed to paranormal? I'm separating them. Some people may not.
Yeah.
I separate them because quite honestly, I've never had a UFO experience.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but in my mind, it's separate.
Yeah.
But how do you feel?
I would agree with you in the sense that if you see a physical craft, that is a physical occurrence. That is very real. It is a material object in front of you. If you see, say, a glowing orb, well, we don't know what those are. So that could be what we would deem paranormal, right?
Right.
It could be, I mean, we don't know what it is. It could be like a drone, an alien drone. We have no idea what it is, but we just see a glowing orb. So that could cross over. So I would say I'm in the middle. I'd separate some aspects of it. A physical craft, yes, that is separate from, say, like a ghost or a spirit or something along those lines. It's almost two different dimensions. Right.
So, so as a witch, being in touch with the earth,
mm-hmm.
okay. The human initiated contact, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Calling or trying to initiate contact with that maybe in particular ETs.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, I'm a demonologist, so I think demons, right?
Mm-hmm.
So where does witchcraft fall into the communication end of things? And I could be talking prayer. I could be talking just communicating, maybe asking for something, particular demons. I don't know if can we talk about that communication between the paranormal and yourself or people, so how would you do that? Who would you do it with? Who would you be communicating with?
Okay.
I'm interested because I think our fundamentally we could be polar opposites when it comes to demons.
We might very well be. I think
but
we
that's
are.
okay. Tess is all about that.
Yeah.
So it's just, if you don't mind talking about it, let me hear what you do. Say contacting somebody, or like, who do you ask for help?
Well, it depends on what it is I'm asking for. So if we go back to the very fundamentals of, say, spell casting, because spell casting is very much, you were absolutely dead on when you said a prayer. It is very similar to a prayer. The only difference is, and again, this gets a little gray if you're working with, say, a deity, a god, or a goddess. But as a witch, where I'm not working with a deity, the difference between prayer and spell casting is simply that in prayer, you're asking someone else to intercede on your behalf. In spellcasting, you're the person who's putting the intent out there to make it happen. So there's no kind of god or goddess like mediating the event for you, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So if you're doing spellcasting and you do work with a deity of some sort, whichever one that may be, and there are witches who do work with the Christian God, and they do work with Jesus, and they do work with Mary. So that's one of the things about Wicca and witchcraft is you can work with whoever you want. So it's not limited to that. I wanted to make sure that like everybody realizes that as well. But it depends on what you're doing. That would be my answer. So if I'm saying like and I think we may have touched upon this a little bit, and I wore this shirt in purple. Says that you're never alone.
You're never alone.
Wore it just for you, Tim.
Thank you. Yeah. You know what? How true that is. Lynn?
Yeah, so from my perspective, demons are entities. Now, I think that a lot of people use the term demon, they overuse the term demon. They see anything that they perceive as bad as a demon.
Right.
And I think that there is a very specific type of spirit or entity that we would call a demon, right? And again, I think it's also in how you're dealing with it, and different demons are going to be different because I have worked with demons. I'll say that up front. I have worked with them. I haven't had any issues with them. I approach it as a partnership. I don't work for them. They don't work for me. But I think, as you know, as a demonologist, there are hierarchies of demons.
Right.
And I think the things that we see that are causing trouble, like kind of the troublemakers of the demon world, are the lower level demons. They're the ones that are really just like kind of chaotic and wreaking havoc. But my own personal interactions with the few that I have worked with, I don't work with a ton of them, and I don't recommend people working with them if they aren't educated in it, and they aren't aware of how to do it and how to approach it. Because the moment you approach it with fear, you're going to be in trouble.
Right.
But you have to educate yourself, as you do with anything, I would say. So say and I don't work with them all the time. Like, I don't want to make it sound like I'm sitting at our call talking to the demons every day. I mean, hey, if they want to have a conversation, sure, I will. Yeah. But what would I contact them for? So, like, there are certain demons, as you know, from like the Goetia. There are certain demons that are good with, and King Solomon, when he wrote out the Goetia and characterized each of these demons, he talked about their attributes, the things that they were good at. Some are good at working with herbs. Some are good at like the knowledge of the natural world. Some are good at communication. Like, they each have their own attributes. And the way he worked with them was to capture them, within the Solomon circle, and basically bid them to do his will. Now, as a witch who works with them on occasion, I would never do that. I would never capture them, because one, I think that's like starting off the conversation on a bad foot already. Like, nobody wants to be captured and made to do something.
Right.
So, if I really felt the need to, and I only work with them when it's like, something like a bigger issue that I'm trying to tackle. So say there was, if I'm going to have an example, say I know a friend and she's in a relationship that's abusive and she's having trouble, and she asks me, hey, can you help me with this? Can you do something? And I only do it for people that I would know very, very well. Because it is, you're taking on that. Every action has, an equal and opposite reaction. So you're taking on that risk. But say it was something like that, I would use them for protection. Absolutely. So if someone was doing harm against someone else and they've tried everything else, I would use it for protection. And I would say, hey, I know that this demon is going to be good with this. I'll talk with them and have them go have a little talk with the other person if necessary. Again, I've only done that like maybe 2 or 3 times ever. It's not necessary. It's not one of those things that I'm not going to do that for like anybody who, like, if you cut me off in traffic, I'm not sending a demon your way. But
right.
Sometimes, we as witches, we use what we have to protect ourselves as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting in that scenario, obviously an abusive husband or boyfriend or something like that. Would you not consider the fact that he has got a demon?
Possibly.
Right.
Possibly.
So you're sending
so maybe the demons can chat. They can just have some coffee and be like, all right, let me talk to you, because Lynn's going to have a problem with this. So we need to chat. No, it's very possible. I don't mean to joke. It is very possible.
Yeah, I'm just saying, there's like, like, again, with the, we are going to be opposite in some, me with my, my Christian background. Mm-hmm. I don't try to Bible thump people. Yeah. And it could be, and I'm not, when I talk about the Bible, I try to go back to the original text and I try to understand what they were thinking at the time when they wrote it. Okay. So it is very narrow when it comes to demons. Demons are no, right? Mm-hmm. They're a no. You don't talk to demons. You don't talk to demons because, so that was my upbringing. So in order to expand that, as you're looking into exorcisms and things dealing with the demons, you can get into strongholds that the demon, you get into it. Like there's got to be a legal right somewhere. Somebody has let that demon or let Satan have permission to infest this bloodline, or activate a curse in generational curses and stuff. What I'm saying is my interpretation, and what I look for and what I see is the negative. Yeah. I see the negative result. I see those strongholds. The strongholds being like alcoholism, schizophrenia, bipolar. These things can be strongholds and can be places for demons to play around. And to wreak a lot of havoc. So it's hard for me to think. Now, if I call on Christ as a Christian, okay, I'm just putting a name to my faith.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So you're calling a demon maybe, a matter of translation or a matter, you know what I mean? Like it's your intent, and your communications are on a positive nature. Okay, yeah. What I see is not. I don't see that positive nature.
Right, and that's why I was saying, like, there are different levels. There are different. I mean, and just like in any, just like in any species, the human species, there are some wonderfully amazing humans, and there are some really, really horrible humans. You know, so I think that's the one problem that I have is categorizing an entire species as evil. I don't think that that's like, we don't know enough about them to do that. And I do understand where you're coming. In fact, you'd probably be surprised in that our backgrounds aren't completely unsimilar. I actually, when I said that I, find religion fascinating, I actually was enrolled in an old Catholic seminary for a while and was working on a master's in theology. And I wanted to learn about demons. And they knew that I was a witch. I wasn't practicing while I was there. That was kind of the agreement. But I wanted to learn about exorcisms and their view of demons and the history of Christianity and all of that, and how it was all incorporated, and the ritual of Catholicism, because there's a lot of ritual. Oh boy. All right. Well, hopefully Tim will be back. But for all of you guys, yes, there's a lot of ritual in Catholicism.
Well, hey, I'm here. That kind of shocked me. I don't know what happened there, but carry on with that thought.
So yeah, I was just saying there's a lot of ritual in Catholicism, and I found that fascinating too. What are the kind of the behind the scenes that the priest does in order to get mass ready, in order to have communion ready for those to be taken, like converting the blood into, or the wine into blood and the bread into the body. So those are all rituals, and they're very, very similar. And I hope I don't offend anybody in saying this, and I certainly don't mean to compare the two, but the techniques are very similar to what we as witches do too, which is using energy to convert things.
Right. Timmy, are you there? Sorry, I think Tim was going to come up and take my seat. I think that something might have happened.
Right. No worries.
Okay. I was engaged in the conversation too, so like I totally.
All right. Well, then ask me a question, Ryan, while you got me.
Well, yeah, I gotcha. Let me think here. What would be the difference between I guess a bad witch and a good witch? Like can and how do you establish the difference? Like how does one make a decision?
Yeah, that's a good question.
To be good or bad.
And I would say, I personally would say it's all about perspective. But if we're going to kind of generalize, the difference would be, again, the intent. Do you have malicious intent, or do you have good intent? Are you there to try to help and to heal, or are you there to harm? Now, it gets gray when I say things like, somebody could say me, sending a demon to protect my friend who's being abused from a boyfriend or husband or whatever. The example was, someone could say, well, that's malicious. And I could say, but it's also protective of her. It's healing her, so that's where it kind of gets to be a gray area. And then within the witchcraft and the Wiccan community, it is very gray as well. Some people won't do anything that is even remotely close to being called, negative witchcraft, like a binding. And a binding is not necessarily anything bad, but some people don't even want to go that far. So that's like, basically a binding is just keeping someone from doing something. So you're kind of binding that behavior, so that they're not, being hurtful to you, or whatever the situation may be. You're not doing anything to them physically. You're not sending anything after them. You're not, it's a very basic type of spell work, but some witches won't even want to do that. They'll view that as a gray area. So there is, again, there's controversy on the kind of the wording here, but to make it very simplistic, there's the white witchcraft, and then there's the dark witchcraft, and then there's also gray witchcraft, which is that kind of middle area and that's what a lot of people would call me, which is like, I will do the things that other people would view as darker magic if I need to, such as protecting a friend like that. But I also, most of my witchcraft is for positive intent. So that's where you kind of get that like in between gray area.
So have you don't have to answer this, but I guess like, have you ever used it, in a bad way? Have you ever been?
I wouldn't say it was a bad way, but other people might say it was a bad way. Yes, I have used it to protect either my friends or family members. Yes. But that's and I would say it's probably been maybe 3 or 4 times ever. Okay. It's not like I don't do that. And that's the thing that, Lord in the Depths has a question. Are you a specific witch? Green, crystal? I don't know any others that you practice. Yes. Well, this is where people get very confused by me too. I am actually what is considered a Luciferian witch. Now, that is not a satanic witch. It is very different. Because that's the thing people automatically jump to. Luciferian simply means, because Lucifer in the Bible was the bringer of light. He was light bringer, right? That's what Lucifer meant. So Luciferian simply means to gain knowledge, to empower yourself, to kind of elevate yourself in your understanding of the world around you. That's all Luciferian simply means. Some people do work with the angel Lucifer. I do. I don't work with Satan. And actually in the Bible, nowhere in the Bible does it state that Lucifer was Satan. People have made the connection. And I think it was one of the popes, if I remember right from seminary, I should know that. One of the popes, I think, made the leap. Maybe Tim will know. That Lucifer was Satan, but actually it never explicitly states that he was Satan. Mm-hmm. So Lucifer is an angel. So that's who I work with.
I will comment, and then I'm going to hand it back to Tim, because clearly we're having technical difficulties. He needs my share. So I do follow Sumerian mythology as well, and under Enki and Enlil. And if you follow that mythology, by technicality, the Lord of the Sky is the bad one, and the Lord of the Earth is the good one. And you follow that all the way up to Christianity. The Lord of the Sky is God, and the Lord of the Earth is Satan. So I'm going to leave it at that.
Yes, Ryan. That's funny. Well, I wouldn't call God Satan for sure, but but yes, that is true. There's a lot of misunderstanding. There's a lot of different interpretations. I personally, when I work with Lucifer, the angel Lucifer, he is an angel, and that is it. There's no malintent. There's nothing, satanic about it. And depends on the branch of Satanism too. Like there are a bunch of different branches of Satanism. Some of them, there is the Church of Satan, which is probably more along the lines of what people think. But then there's also like the Satanic Temple, which I know they have. Like I think they have their headquarters is in Salem, which is it's a civil rights political organization. They fight for civil rights. So it's all very fascinating. There's a lot to it.
Well, Aleister Crowley's. He's one of my best buddies.
Aleister Crowley. He's a fascinating dude. I give him that.
Well, he is. He's on my answering machine.
That's
who you get when you call me.
That's hilarious.
So obviously I missed the question about Satan. I heard the explanation.
He was asking me about good witchcraft versus bad witchcraft, and then who was it? Oh, Lurd in the Depths asked what type of witch I was, and that's why I was explaining what a Luciferian witch is, which is to kind of gain enlightenment through educating yourself through knowledge. Right, and that's all that it is.
That actually sounds like a lot of religions. To be honest.
Right. Well, it's called that because Lucifer, as you know, is the bringer of light. So he's the bringer of knowledge. Yeah. And that's where it comes from. But I not every Luciferian works with Lucifer. I work with the angel Lucifer. Right. So, you can or you can't. But I don't view him as a deity.
Well, and it's interesting that Ryan was talking about Sumerian Sumerian mythology. Mythology itself is very interesting. The stories that very similar. There's a hero, there's a death, there's it's all Joseph Campbell wrote about it, the mythology, Star Wars, obviously, that kind of thing, with the hero and that. But what happens with mythology and what happens with the story of Lucifer, the fallen angel, and Satan and all this kind of stuff, you got to remember that the amount of time that has passed. Even just the Christian, the 2,000 years that they talk about with Christ, being it's evolved.
Yeah.
I'm trying, and all these stories evolve. So we could get into debating who Lucifer was, because I know who Lucifer is in my head.
Yeah.
Right. But are we going to come ahead anywhere? Are we going to, so your intentions as defining good witch and bad witch, good cop, bad cop. It's isn't it? It's what's inside you.
It is, and it's perspective too of who's the one viewing it. So I may say I know that I'm a good person and I'm not out there, killing people. I'm not out there abusing it. So I would say I'm a good person, but someone else might be like, oh my gosh, they hear Luciferian and automatically they're going to think that I'm a a bad witch in
The word,
quotes.
well, the word Lucifer's in there, so you're going to get.
Yeah, it is. But you know what? That's okay because I use it for educational purposes too.
Yeah. And I think it's important that, you know, as experiencers, I'm an experiencer as well, that we don't, the details aren't as important as our feelings and how we move on from our experiences. You know, that's what Tessa's about. Now, I know in your bio, you talk about an experiencers group or helping experiencers. I believe that was somebody who worked at Harvard.
No, that was when I was working with the free organization.
Well, free organization. Sorry, I wanted to go into the free, what it was and what you did at free, and possibly are you still with them or?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Yep. So I worked with Mary Rodwell, who's amazing. If you guys don't know who she is, any experiencers out there, Mary's awesome. She works solely with experiencers, but she's also a researcher. But so she's one of the founders of Free, and she and I co-developed this support program for experiencers. So basically, it's a program for anyone who's had experiences that they're either having trouble kind of coming to terms with, or maybe it's a brand new experience and they're just completely freaked out by it, or maybe it's an old experience and they just have no one else to talk to and they would really like to talk to someone about it and be able to process that. So we came up with we had a good long list, I think about almost like, it was over 100, I think, by the time that I ended up leaving Free, of mentors. So these were people who were experiencers themselves. They were very well adjusted and had a good understanding, or at least a good, solid, like, I'm okay with this type of experience, and were able to talk to other people about it. And so then anybody who called in or wrote in, in the beginning, they spoke to me, every single one of them, because it was just me working mostly. Because Mary she's in Australia, she's amazing, but she's a regressionist, but she runs all kinds of support groups and everything. So I kind of like took the lead in running it. And so everybody would really talk to me on the way in. And part of it was to vet them to make sure, like, oh, are they okay? Like, do they need other help? Like we talked about before. Yeah. So I would say, okay, well, what kind of experience? And they would tell me about their experience. And so I knew all of our mentors, we had categorized what types of experiences they had so that we could try to get them matched up with someone who had maybe something similar, maybe a similar being or a similar type of encounter, because no two experiences are going to be exactly the same, obviously. So we would then match them up with that person, and then that person would take them on as like a mentor and work with them and talk with them and just kind of like be there for them as a friend and help them try to understand their experiences.
Right. Now we run an experiencers group. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah.
Experiencers Anonymous. You should pop in. You can pop in sometime. Right?
Yeah.
Our next one is this Saturday at 2.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact. And I find it's helpful for me, even like I'm helping running it. It doesn't give me any official title in the group or anything. It's anonymous, but I'm hoping that the people attending it are getting something out of it. The reports, obviously, the reports are key. People reporting, but then the experiencers who have reported that, where do they go? Right. That's what I find interesting about our Experiencers Anonymous. I like the mentoring that you're talking about. That's something that I never thought of, much like a sponsor in a 12-step kind of thing. That's an awesome idea. Chantel's hopefully still listening. Maybe she'll write that down for our next meeting. I think that's a great idea, because the experiencer with an experienced experiencer. So thank you.
It's peer-to-peer support is all it is.
Yeah, I may be stealing that idea from you, Lynn.
Anyone who, if it helps anyone. But you know what? I'm sure even if you feel like you're not necessarily, like if you're questioning, how am I hope I'm helping, even other people hearing someone else talk about their experiences that's helpful. That is therapeutic in and of itself, to hear like, oh, okay, maybe I'm not alone in this. Even if they don't talk, even if they, you never hear from them, even maybe that one conversation is going to be helpful. Oh my goodness. Sorry. Ghost.
More treats.
Ghost is bugging my other dog, I guess.
Oh, there you go.
No, he's just old and demented a little bit, but every now and then he's just like, out of nowhere.
The older they get, the better they get.
Yeah.
We've got animals all over the place here. It's great. Sometimes animals are better people than people.
That is true. They are good support as well. They're great therapy as well.
Oh, Lynn, I'm reviewing my notes.
Yeah, no worries. I can see, if you don't mind me. I'm sorry, I'm like taking over your show.
Go ahead.
I can just see a question that would be maybe like.
Well, and you know what? I don't know how to pop them on the screen. So.
Oh, you don't?
No, I have.
Oh, okay. If you see in the upper right-hand corner, there says private chat and comments. I don't know if you can see that on your screen.
Comments. Yeah, I see.
Yeah,
comments.
click on that, and it'll show up all the comments on that.
I see them. I just don't know how to put them on the screen.
You should be able to just double click on it maybe, or just click on it, and then it should.
Well, here's one, and okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
there you go.
All right. Are you a specific which green, Crystal? I don't know any others.
Yeah, I think that's the one that Ryan and I were like talking about too. That's where I was talking about being a Luciferian.
Good witch, bad witch. Okay.
Yeah, but Lured in the Depths, she had another good question, a couple more down. I think it says, I know y'all kind of touched on this, but how can you really tell the difference between a mental disorder and a possession?
Yeah, that was interesting because yeah, there it is. Okay, sorry. Yeah, there we go. So how can you really tell the difference? Then?
Detached from reality.
Yeah, there are signs of possession.
Mm-hmm.
In my business, there's signs of possession. There's knowledge that they would never know, and speaking languages that they couldn't possibly know. But this is an important question. What's the difference between mental disorder and possession? I'll tell you what happens is people, and I get emails all the time. I need an exorcism. I need I have demons. I have it's not, you can't go to an exorcism. You can't just go to an exorcism. Okay. And right. I'm sure you agree. Do you have a comment about the difference between the mental disorder? I just find that in what I'm doing, I'm getting a lot of people asking for exorcisms. And when I say go to a doctor, they get offended. They get offended. So
right, and they might, but that doesn't mean that it's not still good for them to hear. Sometimes they need to, and you can say, because the church isn't going to grant an exorcism anyway unless they've been, kind of.
Yeah, well, if you want to get into the paperwork of the Catholic Church, that's
right, but they need to rule that out first, right? If I remember correctly.
Catholics have been doing exorcisms, but exorcisms themselves are a lot older than the Catholic Church. Yes. They're just the first Christian organization to actually write a book about it.
Yeah.
About exorcisms and how you do it and all this kind of stuff. So they get a lot of flack for their books and what they've written, but no other, there's no Pentecostal book on demons and possession or any of that kind of stuff. So it's backwards though, is what I'm seeing. I don't know if you find that people want the quick fix and they think the exorcism is quick fix. It's
right.
not.
Yeah, I agree. And see, to me, and I, again, I hope I don't offend anyone, but I think if someone is asking for that, I would lean more towards what's going on emotionally for them, what's going on mentally for them, if they're asking for an exorcism, because someone who's truly possessed isn't going to have that capacity to ask for an exorcism.
Right. Yeah, and that's very sensible. Crazy people don't know they're crazy.
Nope.
Right. So somebody who is fully possessed. Now, I mean, you can get into all kinds of different things when we talk about schizophrenia or dissociative, any dissociative disorder, personality disorder, or anything like that. There is also the potential that a demon may be infested in one of those personalities. Right?
Or there's the potential that they believe that there is, because there can be an aspect of paranoia to that disorder too. Yeah, exactly. So that's where it can get a little tricky, and you really have to work with the person for a little while to really understand what's going on.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're not, like, if you had mentioned your friend, wanting your help. You have to be clear of what help they're asking for, right? And whether it's something that you want to be involved in, because there's actions have consequences.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's something you always have to take into consideration with, whether it's spell work or working with, and the demonic in any way.
So talking about the spells and working with demonics, Do you have a procedure before you do a spell? Like, is there do you know what I mean? Like, is there some, like, you
Just a spell in general, or one working specifically with?
How do you decide you're going to do a spell? How do you just, like, okay, you're ticked off at somebody. Are you
okay?
Like, okay, this is in my mind, which is
Yeah.
like, oh, you're going to get it, pal. Like,
Yeah.
So how do you decide to do a spell? Like,
Well, first of all, you don't do it while you're ticked off,
Right.
because you
I
have
knew you
to
were
be
gonna say
able
that.
to focus your intent. And if you're in your emotions, you're never going to be able to accurately focus your intent for whatever it is. If you're sad, or if you're, it doesn't have to necessarily be anger. You need to be in a very calm space, and you need to think, if you're going to do something like that, if it's, say, working in, kind of a more like a darker area, if we're going to like talk about that.
Yeah.
You definitely need to think it through. You have to consider every possible kind of bit of retribution that might happen there. You have to consider every possible outcome, and are you okay with that? And you have to consider, is this something that is the crime worth the punishment, so to speak? I'm not viewing it as punishment, but to use the phrase. So you really have to consider it. And that's where something I see, like a lot of, especially younger, which is like girls who are in their, like, late teens, early 20s, they're very quick. They're very quick to be like, oh, I'm going to curse this person. And I'm like, no. That is absolutely the wrong thing for you to be doing right now. Right. So you always want to try to go a more positive route, and then only use that in very extreme cases. So I would say, if I've come to like judge the situation, I've thought about it, I've looked at it from every possible angle, is there anything else I can do instead of this? And use and say this is a last resort. Then I'm going to very specifically plan out what it is I'm asking to happen. And because you want to make it very specific. You don't want to just be like, just sending a bunch of negative energy towards that person, because what if there are people around them? Is that negative energy going to spread? So you have to like really, really understand what it is you're doing and the task you're undertaking. And again, be prepared for any consequences that you might get from it.
So is there a difference between curses and spells? Spells or curses?
No, curses are simply a type of spell.
Okay.
It's all spell work.
Yeah, okay.
Spell work is just like a general term, really.
Right. And in my line of work, a curse is a doorway or a permission, okay, for evil. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's
on the person casting it, or
okay, there's that too.
This is what I'm asking.
There's that too. Okay. You're good, Lynn. The person having the curse. Okay. Mm-hmm. And of course, right now I am doing some studying on curses and generational stuff. Mm-hmm. So I curse you to the 10th generation, and mm-hmm. and all the language and stuff like that. But that generational curse is the invitation. And it could skip generations.
I would argue that a generational curse only works if the family believes that it works. Because, maybe say someone in their family did get cursed, and maybe the witch did. Though I don't know any witches who've ever done generational curses on people. I think that's incredibly rare. But I'm not to say that it can't happen. Anything can happen, right? But if I were to think, well, I know my mom was cursed, and then, she said her grandmother was cursed, so obviously I'm cursed, then what's going to happen? I'm going to be cursed. Yeah. But if I don't believe it, if I'm just like, she just had bad luck, she's fine. Like, it is what it is. Like, I don't believe in that. Nobody cursed me. It wasn't me. I didn't have anything to do with it. I'm not going to be cursed.
That's interesting, because it does, even with the generational curses that I've been studying, if it skips a generation, mm-hmm. it's likely because the environment of that person was a good mm-hmm. environment, mm-hmm. one that repelled the evil. Okay. But because the curse, and it could have been something hundreds of years ago, mm-hmm. right? It could have been a ritual ceremony or, any kind of sacrifice or dark sacrifice way back when. So what's mm-hmm. happening with this curse is it may be skipping some generations. You might get a nice kid, grow up mm-hmm. and have all the kids in the world and all this. Satan's just going to wait. He's okay. Let this guy go. I'll get the next one. That's generational. That's what I'm talking about. Is that
okay? That's interesting. See, I wouldn't see it as I wouldn't see it as, I guess, Satan waiting around for somebody. I would see a curse just like I would any other spell work, which is energy. It's energy directed at that.
Yeah, but
that energy be sustained.
Exactly. And how long can that energy be sustained?
Right. But also on the other side,
yeah,
shielding and protection work, all witchcraft, and every witch who has been doing it for a while will tell you this. Yeah. All witchcraft is energy work. It's 100% mental. You don't need candles. You don't need tools of any kind. Yes, those can help you focus your energy and focus your intent. They're great tools for that, but you don't need them. So shielding work and protection work are all mental. So if I can sit there and say, well, I can shield myself from curses by protecting myself, say surrounding myself in a white light or whatever it is that a person uses, then you could also say that a generational curse isn't going to work on someone who is surrounded by positivity, whether it's through their own intent or their environment. Right. Because it's the same type of thing.
I like that, Lynn. I like that because it's in my environment. Like, I'm diving into demons books, and some of it is black. Yeah. I don't subscribe to it. Like I don't. It's. I'm gonna say research. I'm not a researcher. I read. But it's my point is I'm very familiar with setting up a positive environment before I go in to do something. Yes. And even the spirit attachment work or anything like that, that protective bubble that you're talking about, that's something that they teach us, before we go into any situation.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same concept.
Yeah, just even a paranormal investigation, whether or not we're going to find something, that's the question. Okay, but what if we do find something? What kind of protection do I give myself? And it's a personal thing, right? It's obviously personal to you. Yeah,
and there's a lot of different ways you can do it.
Yeah.
Like if you want to call on, St. Michael the Archangel to protect you. St. Michael the Archangel, protect us in battle. You know that. Right. Yeah. That's a form of protection, and that's that intent. Again, you're focusing it towards St. Michael, but again, it's your belief that St. Michael will protect you, that's really what's protecting you.
Great, yeah. I'm just, sorry, I was just looking at, you got me looking at the comments here. One fellow
it's addictive.
Yeah, it is.
Some good questions.
But I might just turn the floor over to some questions because
go for it.
So it's just, there is a fellow here, Christopher, commented about the around St. Petersburg. He says 10,000 exorcisms done yearly. I don't know how accurate that is, but if it's in Italy, obviously they're going to do a lot of exorcisms.
Yeah,
at church, right? You need to do commercial right now. Okay, I'm going to bring Ryan Stacy on to run our commercials. Lynn, okay, you hang in there. Go get a drink of water.
Alrighty.
Okay.
All right. Sorry, everybody. Technical difficulties, obviously. For you guys listening, you have no idea what's going on. But for you guys watching, please bear with us. Timmy, you're doing a very good job. And especially for like the only time in history where we've had something like that malfunction. It must be the demons.
It's me. I cause all kinds of electrical issues.
Thank you, everybody, for paying attention and working through this right now as I'm just stalling to find my button and my cat's in my way. All right, so we will pause right here, but we will continue after a message from our professional partners. Also, if you're listening to this live on KPNL Radio or a future podcast, head over to youtube.com/Experiencer Support Association to see the video that goes with the audio. I don't recommend watching this one, but it's it's good. No, I meant with all the stuff going on. We all know who's listening. Okay, remember, you're listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, a podcast by the Experiencer Support Association. And if we're lucky, Tim will be back.
Ryan is one of Canada's leading new UFO investigators. He conducts and oversees UFO investigations on a constant basis and was really taken by his research. He's compiled a tremendous amount of data regarding UFOs in Canada. And just as interesting, he really goes over how UFO investigations are done and what are some of the mistakes that people make when they submit evidence. Note for starters, don't edit your videos or photos before you send them. If you want to hear more follow-up conversation between Ryan and myself, you can go to richardolanmembers.com, where we have a candid conversation on ufology, the paranormal, and more. And remember, while we learn and grow and search for the truth, let's be good to each other.